Have you ever wondered if you truly trust God? Is it possible that, despite your faith, there are areas in your life where doubt still lingers? How can you be sure that your trust in Him isn't just a surface-level belief, but a deep, unwavering conviction that influences every part of your life? And what if I told you that there are 3 clear signs that can reveal whether you genuinely trust God or if you've been relying on your own strength all along? These signs are not just theoretical, they're tangible, real indicators that can show you whether you have fully surrendered your life into God's hands. The journey we're about to embark on today holds the power to transform the way you see your relationship with God. Imagine discovering secrets that very few know, yet these secrets are capable of unlocking a deeper, more intimate trust in God that could change everything. You see, it's not just about believing in God, it's about trusting Him with your life, your decisions, and your future. As we go through this study, I'll guide you through the steps to identify those signs of true trust in God. But before we dive into today's lesson, I want you to reflect on something. Have you ever felt overwhelmed, unsure of your next step, or uncertain about God's plan for your life? In those moments, do you truly trust Him to handle everything, or do you try to take control? This is where it gets personal. The way you handle struggles, the way you react to challenges, and the way you rely on God can reveal a lot about where your heart truly is. What if I told you that God is speaking to you right now through this message, revealing areas where your trust in Him may be lacking? That's why today's study is so important. It's not just for your knowledge, it's for your life. Before we continue, I want to ask you to do something. Comment, "I trust God completely," below this video. This simple action will connect you to the power of what's coming next, and it's an expression of your commitment to actively engaging in this message. And don't forget to like this video. When you like the video, you're helping it reach others who need this message too. Together, we're spreading God's word and helping others grow in their faith. Now, take a deep breath and get ready. You're about to uncover powerful truths that will help you see your trust in God like never before. Keep watching, because by the end of this video, you'll know with certainty whether you truly trust God. And one more thing before we begin. Many of you have shared that this channel is your spiritual support. For those who don't have a church nearby or who are going through challenging seasons in life, this video could be the key to unlocking a deeper faith. That's why it's so important that we all participate in this study together. So, let's get started. Prepare your heart to learn the 3 clear signs that will reveal the depth of your trust in God. The first clear sign that you truly trust God is your ability to trust Him in the midst of difficult circumstances. Let's be honest, life can be tough. There are moments when everything seems to fall apart. You lose your job, a loved one is struggling, or you face a challenge that seems impossible to overcome. In those moments, the natural reaction is fear, doubt, and anxiety. But how do you respond when life throws its hardest punches at you? The Bible is full of examples of individuals who faced extreme trials and still trusted God. One of the most powerful stories is that of Job. Job lost everything: his wealth, his health, and his family. He was left in the most excruciating pain imaginable. But even in his darkest moment, Job didn't curse God. Instead, he said, "Though He slay me, yet will I trust in Him." Job 13:15. This powerful declaration reveals the depth of Job's trust in God. He didn't understand why everything was happening to him, but he knew that God was still in control. He understood that even in the worst of circumstances, God's sovereignty and goodness remained unchanged. When we face trials, we often wonder, why is this happening to me? But God is asking you to trust Him not because you can see the way forward, but because He sees the bigger picture. True trust in God means letting go of the need for answers and surrendering to His will, even when it's hard to understand. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. When things aren't going well, how do you respond? Do you panic or do you lean into God, knowing He's working everything out for your good? Trusting God during difficult times requires a shift in perspective. It's not about understanding every detail of the situation. It's about believing that God is good, faithful, and able to turn even the worst circumstances around for His glory. Maybe you're facing a difficult trial right now. If so, I encourage you to make a decision today. Choose to trust God, even if you don't have all the answers. Trusting God in difficult circumstances is not about ignoring your pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging that God is greater than your circumstances and that He is with you in your struggle. As you think about this sign of trust, ask yourself, am I trusting God in the midst of my trials? Am I relying on His strength instead of my own? Remember, it's in the trials where God's power is most evident. When you rely on Him, His strength will become your strength, and His peace will guard your heart and mind. This leads us to the second sign that reveals whether you truly trust God, your willingness to obey His commands even when they don't make sense. Keep reflecting on your own journey with God as we continue with this study. Trusting God during trials is a powerful indicator of where your faith truly lies. Let's dive into the next sign. The second clear sign that you truly trust God is your willingness to obey His commands, even when they don't make sense. Obedience to God is one of the strongest markers of trust because it shows that you believe His ways are better than your own. When God asks you to do something that challenges your understanding or requires you to step out of your comfort zone, your response will reveal whether you truly trust Him. Consider the story of Abraham. In Genesis 12, God called Abraham to leave everything he knew, the comfort of his home, his family, and his possessions, and journey to an unknown land. God didn't give Abraham all the details. He didn't explain the destination or the hardships he would face along the way. He simply told Abraham to go, and Abraham obeyed. In Genesis 22, Abraham was asked to sacrifice his only son Isaac, the child of promise that God had given him in his old age. Can you imagine the emotional turmoil Abraham must have experienced? Yet, Abraham obeyed God's command. He trusted God so deeply that he believed that even if he had to sacrifice Isaac, God could raise him from the dead. Hebrews 11:19. Abraham's willingness to obey, even in the hardest of circumstances, demonstrated his complete trust in God's plan. Obeying God when you don't fully understand His instructions can be incredibly difficult. It often requires you to let go of your own plans, desires, and understanding, but that's what true trust looks like. Trusting God means believing that His wisdom and knowledge are far beyond yours, and that He is always working things out for your good. Romans 8:28. Are there areas in your life where God has asked you to obey, but you've hesitated because it didn't make sense? Maybe God is calling you to step into a new season of your life, take a leap of faith, or follow a path that feels uncertain. Your obedience to God in these moments is an act of trust. It's an act of surrender to His greater plan, even when you don't know what the outcome will be. Reflect on the times in your life when God has asked you to do something that seemed difficult or illogical. Did you obey or did you resist? True trust in God means that you are willing to obey, even when it challenges your understanding or comfort zone. When you choose obedience, you are aligning your heart with God's will, and that alignment strengthens your trust in Him. Take a moment to ask yourself, am I willing to obey God, even when His instructions don't make sense? To me, do I trust that His ways are higher than my ways? This willingness to obey is a reflection of your trust in His plan and His purpose for your life. Now that we've discussed obedience, let's move on to the third and final sign of trusting God, your confidence in His provision, even when you feel uncertain. This is the ultimate test of whether you truly trust God with your life. Let's Continue to dive deeper into this study, keeping our focus on these powerful signs of trust. The third and final sign that you truly trust God is your confidence in His provision, even when the circumstances are uncertain. When you trust God, you are confident that He will provide everything you need, exactly when you need it. This confidence is not based on your own strength or ability to control your situation, but on the understanding that God is faithful and will never leave you or forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:6. In the Bible, Jesus taught us about trust in God's provision through the well-known passage in Matthew 6:25-34. He said, "Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing?" Jesus continues by reminding us that God takes care of the birds of the air and the lilies of the field, and that we are far more valuable to Him than these things. If God takes care of them, how much more will He take care of us? When you truly trust God, you are able to release your fears and anxieties about your needs. You understand that He is your provider, and that He sees your struggles and will meet your needs in His perfect timing. This trust doesn't mean you'll always have everything you want, but it means that God will provide what you truly need to accomplish His purpose in your life. Look at the example of the Israelites in the wilderness. After God delivered them from Egypt, they found themselves in a barren desert without food or water. But God provided for them in miraculous ways. He sent manna from heaven every morning to feed them, and He made water flow from a rock to quench their thirst. Exodus 16:4-36, Exodus 17:1-7. God didn't just provide once, He provided for them every single day. The Israelites had to trust that God would continue to provide for them, even when they couldn't see how it would happen. The same is true for us today. Trusting God means having confidence that He will provide for us in all areas of our lives, whether it's financial provision, emotional strength, or spiritual guidance. When life feels uncertain and we don't know how things will turn out, true trust in God is demonstrated by our ability to let go of anxiety and rest in His provision. Now, this doesn't mean we shouldn't plan or work hard. In fact, the Bible encourages us to work diligently and be good stewards of what God has given us. But even as we do our part, we must always remember that our ultimate provision comes from God. He is the one who opens doors, provides opportunities, and meets our needs in ways we could never imagine. Think about the times in your life when you faced financial difficulties, health challenges, or emotional struggles. Did you trust that God would provide what you needed, or did you allow fear and worry to take over? Trusting God's provision is a process. It's learning to let go of your own control and fully rely on His faithfulness. As you reflect on your own life, ask yourself, do I trust that God will provide for me even when things seem uncertain? Can I rest in the confidence that He sees my needs and will meet them in His perfect way? With this final sign of trust, we've covered 3 powerful indicators that show whether you truly trust God: your willingness to obey, your ability to surrender control, and your confidence in His provision. Each of these signs requires a deep personal relationship with God. Trust is not something that happens overnight. It is a journey of learning to lean on Him more fully with each step you take. Now that we've discussed these 3 clear signs, it's time to bring all of this together in the final part of our study. As we conclude our study on the signs of truly trusting God, let's reflect on what it means for your life to be rooted in this deep trust. Trusting God is not just about checking off a list of behaviors or beliefs. It's about living a transformed life that overflows with peace, strength, and unwavering faith in His goodness and faithfulness. To truly trust God is to experience His presence in every moment of your life. It's waking up every day, knowing that He is already ahead of you, preparing the way. It's stepping into unknown situations with the knowledge that He will never leave you, no matter how challenging the circumstances may seem. Trusting God means that you understand His character and His heart for you. And because of that understanding, you are willing to surrender your plans, your timing, and your fears. Think about the Apostle Paul, who faced unimaginable trials, imprisonment, beatings, shipwrecks, and more. And yet, in the midst of all that, Paul wrote these powerful words in Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Paul was able to experience this peace because he trusted God fully. He knew that in every situation, God would provide the peace and strength he needed. He had learned that true trust in God leads to a peace that surpasses human understanding. No matter the storm, no matter the trial, trust in God brings a calm assurance that He is in control, and He will work everything out for His glory and for your good. True trust in God also transforms the way we interact with the world around us. When you trust God, you become a reflection of His love and peace to others. You become a witness to the world of what it looks like to live a life anchored in faith. People will notice your calm in the midst of chaos, your strength in the face of adversity, and your unwavering hope in the darkest of times. And in those moments, you have the incredible opportunity to point others to the one who is the source of your trust. One of the most powerful examples of this is found in the life of Job. Job faced immense loss and suffering. He lost his wealth, his children, and his health. Yet in the midst of his pain, Job was able to say, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." Job 13:15. Job's trust in God was not dependent on his circumstances, but on his unwavering belief in God's goodness and faithfulness. He had a deep understanding that even in the midst of tragedy, God was still good and worthy of trust. When you trust God, you stop seeing life through the lens of fear and doubt. Instead, you begin to see through the lens of faith that God is working all things together for your good. Even when you can't see the full picture, you embrace the uncertainty of life, knowing that the one who holds your future also holds your heart. But let's also remember that trusting God doesn't mean you won't face challenges. It doesn't mean everything will always go smoothly or according to your plans. Trusting God is not about avoiding suffering, but about having the assurance that God is with you through every trial. When you trust Him, you can rest in the knowledge that He is using every moment to shape you, grow you, and bring you closer to His purpose for your life. Now take a moment to think about your own life. Are there areas where you are still struggling to trust God fully? Are you holding on to control, unwilling to surrender to His plan? It's natural to feel that way, but it's also an invitation to go deeper in your walk with Him. God is inviting you to trust Him with every part of your life, your hopes, your dreams, your fears, and your failures. As we close this part of our study, I encourage you to reflect on your relationship with God. Ask Him to reveal any areas where your trust in Him is lacking. Ask Him to help you surrender control and lean into His provision, His guidance, and His peace. Remember that true trust leads to transformation. And when you trust God fully, He will transform your life in ways you never imagined. Next, as we prepare to move into the final part of our study, I want to remind you of the incredible privilege you have to place your trust in the Creator of the universe. As we finish this journey together, we'll take time to solidify what it means to trust God fully and the amazing rewards that come with living a life anchored in faith. Stay with me until the end, as I'm about to share a closing message that could change your life. As we move deeper into our study, it's essential to focus on the rewards that come with trusting God fully. Trusting God is not just an act of surrender. It's an invitation to live a life filled with His peace, blessings, and divine guidance. The reward for placing your trust in Him is more than just a change in circumstances. It's a transformation of the heart and mind. One of the most profound rewards of trusting God is the peace that surpasses all understanding. This peace is not based on external circumstances, but on the deep, unshakable assurance that God is in control. It's the peace that fills your heart when everything around you seems chaotic, when the storms of life are raging, but you can still rest knowing that God's plan is at work. In John 14:27, Jesus says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." This peace is a gift that only comes through trust in God, and it's a peace that will guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. When you trust God fully, you experience a sense of security that no earthly thing can offer. The world promises peace through temporary solutions, success, possessions, relationships, but these things can never provide the lasting peace that comes from trusting in God. True security is found in knowing that God holds your future and that He will never leave you nor forsake you. Psalm 18:2 reminds us, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." Another reward of trusting God is the strength that He provides. Life can be exhausting, and there are times when you feel like you don't have the strength to keep going. But when you trust in God, you tap into His divine strength. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." When you trust God, He empowers you to keep going when you feel like giving up. His strength becomes your strength, and He will equip you to handle whatever challenges come your way. Trusting God also leads to the fulfillment of His promises. In Hebrews 10:23, we are encouraged to hold fast to the hope we profess, for He who promised is faithful. When you trust God, you are positioning yourself to receive His promises, promises that are rooted in His unchanging character. Whether it's the promise of provision, guidance, or protection, God is faithful to His word. Trusting Him is the key that unlocks the door to these promises. The Bible is full of promises that God has made to His people, and when you trust Him, you allow those promises to become a reality in your life. Furthermore, trusting God invites divine favor. When you place your trust in Him, you align yourself with His will, and His favor rests upon you. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. When you trust God, you submit to His leading, and in return, He will direct your steps and bless your life in ways that go beyond what you could imagine. There's also the reward of knowing that when you trust God, He transforms your relationships. Trusting God allows you to extend grace, love, and forgiveness to others. You begin to see others through the lens of Christ's love, and your relationships are marked by peace and understanding. Trust in God creates harmony in your interactions, and you begin to reflect His love in a way that draws others to Him. As you grow in your trust of God, you also grow in your ability to trust and love those around you, and this transforms your family, your friendships, and even your ministry. The rewards of trusting God go far beyond what we can ask or imagine. But it's important to note that these rewards aren't just for this life. They extend into eternity. When you trust God, you are storing up treasures in heaven. Jesus tells us in Matthew 6:19-21, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The reward of trusting God is eternal, and it transcends the temporary pleasures and possessions that this world offers. When you trust God, you invest in something far more valuable, an eternal relationship with the Creator, an eternal inheritance that will never fade away. So, what are you waiting for? The rewards of trusting God are not just for the future. They're for today. Trust Him with your life, and He will reward you with peace, strength, fulfillment, favor, and a transformation of your heart and mind. The more you trust God, the more you experience His love and His power at work in your life. As we move towards the conclusion of this study, remember that trusting God is not a one-time decision. It's a daily choice, a continuous act of faith. And with every act of trust, God will continue to bless and transform you. Stay with me as we're about to explore how you can apply the lessons of trust to your daily life and experience even more of His incredible rewards. Now, as we dive deeper into this subject of trust, it's essential to acknowledge something we all face at some point: the struggles that challenge our trust in God. Trusting in God is not always easy, and sometimes it feels as though the very things we are trusting Him for seem to be moving farther away from us. In moments of hardship and trials, it's easy to question whether we can truly rely on God, especially when our prayers seem unanswered or when the situation seems to worsen instead of improving. You may feel like you're drowning in doubt, struggling to hold on to the belief that God has a plan for your life, even when it seems like your world is falling apart. These feelings are not uncommon. Many of God's most faithful followers have had to wrestle with these same doubts. One of the biggest challenges to trust is fear. Fear tells us that we're not in control, and it causes us to question whether God is really working in our lives. But God's word repeatedly tells us to fear not. In Isaiah 41:10, God promises, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Fear is a natural response to the unknown, but when we remember that God is with us, it's easier to put our trust in Him and release our grip on the things that are causing us fear. Another struggle that challenges our trust is impatience. We live in a world that demands instant results. We want answers to our problems right now, and when God doesn't deliver on our timetable, we may begin to doubt His timing or His ability to help us. But God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with ours. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." God is never late. His timing is always purposeful. The struggles we face and the waiting periods we endure are part of His plan to build our trust and strengthen our faith. Sometimes, the struggle with trust comes from the sense of abandonment. There are moments when you feel as if God is silent, or you wonder if He has forgotten you. These feelings are real, but they do not reflect the truth of God's love for you. Psalm 34:18 assures us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Even in the silence, God is near. He is with you in your pain, and He is working behind the scenes even when you can't see it. Trusting Him during these seasons of silence is one of the most challenging acts of faith. In addition to fear, impatience, and abandonment, there's also the challenge of self-reliance. We are often taught to be independent, to handle things on our own, and to rely on our own strength. But trusting God means surrendering control. It means acknowledging that we are not in charge of our lives and that our strength is limited. Proverbs 3:5-6 encourages us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. It's only when we stop trying to control everything that we can fully experience the peace that comes from trusting God. The battle to trust God often takes place in our minds. It's a fight between our thoughts and God's truth. The enemy knows that if he can get us to doubt God's goodness, his promises and his faithfulness, he can undermine our trust. In times of struggle, it's essential to focus on God's word. The Bible is filled with reminders of God's faithfulness, his love, and his unwavering commitment to his people. When doubts arise, we can stand firm in the truth of God's promises, knowing that he will never leave us or forsake us. During these struggles, it's vital to remember that God doesn't expect us to have perfect faith. He knows that we will face challenges that shake our trust, and he is ready to help us through them. In moments of doubt, we can ask God to strengthen our faith. In Mark 9:24, a man cried out to Jesus, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." This is the cry of every believer who is struggling with trust. God is compassionate and gracious, and he will help us in our weaknesses. The key to overcoming these struggles is perseverance. Trusting God doesn't mean we won't face difficulties. It means that we keep trusting him despite them. James 1:2-4 tells us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Every struggle you face is an opportunity for your faith to grow stronger, your trust to deepen, and your relationship with God to become more intimate. It's in the midst of these challenges that God's faithfulness shines the brightest. When you trust him through fear, impatience, abandonment, and self-reliance, he proves to you that he is faithful. His love never fails, his promises never waver, and his presence never leaves. By trusting him in these struggles, you position yourself to experience the power of his faithfulness in a deeper way. As we continue in this study, let's remember that struggles are not signs that we don't trust God. They are opportunities for our trust to grow. Keep fighting through the doubts and fears, and know that with every struggle, God is with you, strengthening your trust in him. Now let's talk about the unknown. Life is full of uncertainty, whether it's your health, your finances, your relationships, or your future. And it's during these times of uncertainty that our trust in God is tested the most. The unknown often makes us feel anxious and insecure, and it's easy to let those feelings override the trust we should have in God's plans for us. But what if I told you that trusting God in the unknown is the very place where you will see his greatness unfold in your life? The unknown is not something to fear. It is, in fact, a place where God does his best work. Consider the story of Abraham. In Genesis 12:1-4, God called Abraham to leave his home and journey to a land he didn't know. Abraham didn't have a detailed map or a step-by-step guide to follow. All he had was God's promise. "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." Abraham trusted God, even though he didn't know where he was going or how everything would unfold. His trust in God led to the fulfillment of God's promises, and his faith became an example for generations to come. We too are called to trust God in the face of the unknown. God may not always give us the full picture of what lies ahead, but he gives us himself. He promises to guide us, protect us, and provide for us. When we step out in faith, trusting that God is with us, he opens doors we never thought possible and leads us to places of blessing and purpose. The unknown can be intimidating, but it also holds incredible potential for growth. It's in the unknown that we learn to rely fully on God, to step away from our need for control, and to embrace the adventure of following his will. God doesn't want us to live in fear of the unknown. He wants us to walk in faith, knowing that he holds the future in his hands. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." This is a powerful reminder that our trust in God is not contingent upon our understanding of the situation. We are not called to have all the answers or to be able to foresee what's coming next. We are called to trust Him with all our hearts, even when we can't see the way forward. When we trust God in the unknown, we acknowledge that He is sovereign. We give Him permission to lead us in ways that are beyond our comprehension, and we open ourselves up to the miraculous. Just like Abraham, our obedience to God's leading, even when it doesn't make sense, brings about blessings and results that we could never have imagined on our own. However, it's not always easy to let go of our need for control. The unknown can make us uncomfortable because we like to know what's ahead. We like to have a plan, and we like to feel secure. But if we are truly to trust God, we must surrender our desire for certainty and place our confidence in Him. Trusting God requires faith, the kind of faith that believes God will provide, protect, and guide us, even when we don't have all the answers. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate trust in the unknown is through prayer. In times of uncertainty, it's easy to become overwhelmed by fear or anxiety. But when we turn to God in prayer, we remind ourselves of His goodness, His promises, and His faithfulness. Prayer helps us to refocus on God and to release our worries and doubts to Him. It allows us to hear His voice and to receive His peace, even in the midst of the unknown. Psalm 46:1-3 says, "God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging." This verse reminds us that no matter what comes our way, God is our refuge. He is our strength, our help, and our peace. We don't have to fear the unknown because God is with us in every moment, guiding us through the storms of life. As you continue to trust God in the unknown, remember that He is not only with you, but He is for you. Romans 8:31 says, "If God is for us, who can be against us? You are not walking through the unknown alone. God is walking with you, and His presence is a source of peace and assurance." Trusting God in the unknown is a process. It's something we have to continually choose to do, especially when the path is unclear. But as we take each step in faith, we grow closer to Him and experience His faithfulness in ways we never could have imagined. So what's the next step for you? What area of your life are you being called to trust God with, even though you don't know what lies ahead? Take a moment to reflect on that, and know that as you trust God in the unknown, He will be faithful to lead you, provide for you, and reveal His purpose for your life. The unknown is not a place to fear. It is a place of possibility, a place where God does His best work. As you trust Him, you'll find that He is not only with you, but He is guiding you into a future filled with His blessings. Stay faithful, stay trusting, and watch as God transforms your unknown into a testimony of His greatness. Life is not always easy. There are times when the road is long, the burden is heavy, and it feels as though God is silent. Suffering is something we all face, whether it's physical pain, emotional hurt, financial struggles, or the loss of loved ones. These moments of trial can cause us to question everything, including our trust in God. In these times, it can feel impossible to see beyond our pain, and the thought of trusting God seems like a distant hope. But what if I told you that God's presence is most powerfully felt in the midst of our suffering? What if the very trials that seem to shake us are actually the places where God is preparing us for greater things? The Bible tells us that suffering is not the end. It is a process through which God refines us, strengthens us, and brings us closer to His heart. Consider the story of Job. Job's life was turned upside down in a single day. He lost his wealth, his health, and his children. His friends turned against him, and his wife even told him to curse God and die. Job was overwhelmed with grief, yet he did not give up on God. In Job 13:15 he says, "Though He slay me, yet will I trust in Him." Despite everything he endured, Job chose to trust in God, believing that his faithfulness was not dependent on his circumstances.